It's January 2021. A very happy new year to you. You're listening to Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast, with me, Dave D.
And me, Dave B.
Well, we hope you had a really, really excellent Christmas. Lots of top-notch quality beers. And that you're raring to go in the brand new year, even if we are mainly all in Tier 4 and pretty much locked down.
Here's hoping it's a better year for a lot of reasons than 2020, but one thing that probably will stay the same is the amount of quality beer out and about, so we will endeavour to keep bringing all that to you, and if things do get back to normal, then there's lots and lots more that can be happening in the scene, and we will definitely be there for all that goes on.
Now, some of you out there might be thinking, well, I overindulge a little bit at Christmas, so I'm going to cut down in January. You might be doing the alcohol-free thing. So this month, during the podcast, we're going to have a look at some pretty much non-alcohol beers and do a few tastes of those and see what we think.
Yeah, and we've also got usual favourites like Brew To Me. We're also doing some Hype Or Tripe, and we're doing a brewery again, and I think it's a brewery a lot of people would consider made a hugely triumphant return to form in 2020, and that's Cloudwater. And we've also got Alex from S43 joining us to give us the lowdown on what they've got coming in 2021, and quite a lot by the sounds of it.
Certainly. They had some great beers out during 2020, and it could be a good year for them, 2021, I reckon. So, Alex will be joining us to talk all things S43. So, as if we haven't had enough beers this over Christmas, we're going to go right in now and, have a few more. Why not? With our Brew To Me section.
So, yes, in case you're new to us for this year, and if you are, welcome. Each month we will go and find a new brewery to each of us that we've not had a beer from before, find out a little bit more about them, and of course, most importantly, sample their beers to see what they're like. Now, we've gone all around the world actually so far with our previous episodes, and we're starting in mainland Europe this time, as Dave D has a Dutch brewer that very kindly reached out to us and decided to send some beers.
We're certainly very happy about that. Beers turning up on the doorstep are always a delight. And
only to one half, I'd like to point out, of the podcast.
I'm more than happy to. I was more than happy to take delivery. Not a problem at all. I'm a big fan of the Netherlands anyway. And this brewery we found on Instagram, didn't we? I'd never heard of them before. From what I can understand, the craft scene in the Netherlands is getting bigger and bigger, actually. There's some great breweries over there now. And, well, maybe this will be one of them. I'm not actually sure how long they've been around, these guys. I don't think it's very long, from what I can tell. I've had a little look on their website, and it doesn't actually say when they were founded. But now, I think 3 or 4 beers turned up for me from Dutch IPA, based in Dokkum in Friesland. I'm fascinated to see what they're like. The one I've gone for is the Session IPA, so a bit of a heavy night last night with some 16% stouts, so this is probably a good way to begin, I think, this 3.9%. So let's pour it out.
3.9, that is at the other end of the scale.
Yeah, 16.7, one of the ones I had last night, so this is a good place to start.
Now, the problem I always have with session IPAs is they can smell lovely on the nose and first hit a taste, really, really nice. But then obviously because of what they're dealing with as a style and the strength, I always find they give way to being absolutely nothing on the back end, which isn't really the beer's fault. It is, how it's created, but that doesn't really do a lot for me. But it looks nice in your glass. Nice. It does. Sort of what we've got there. Ambery, pretty hazy by the looks of it.
Yeah, nice bit of haze.
Nice head. Very good.
It is, and it's lingering, isn't it? Let's give this a go. That's pretty pleasant. More bitter than I imagined, actually.
Do they give away what they've put on their hop size on the can?
Let's see. What does it say? I'll tell you what. I'll read out what it actually says on the can. In the days of Captain IPA, beer was drunk as water, a bad combination with a job where you had to stay sharp. That's why Session IPA was introduced with a slightly lower percentage of alcohol. So after a beer or two, you can still hit the mark. There we are, at the bottom there. Yeah, it's the old favourites, Mosaic and Simcoe. It is mainly Mosaic that I'm getting on that. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these Session IPAs don't have a huge amount of flavour to them, do they?
No, just by nature, they don't deliver a big punch, which is sort of what they're there for. You know, they're there to session. Perhaps you've had, as you say, in your case, you've had some big old stouts last night, so this is a nice little palate cleanser. Yeah, refreshing.
It is. I just didn't expect in my head for it to be quite as bitter as it is, but it's that first mouthful is a bitterness, and then that does drop away.
It sounds like it's filling the brief then of being a session IPA.
Yeah, I really wanted to like this, and I do actually.
Oh, good.
Yeah, definitely not disappointing in any way. That is pretty good. Where these guys are based in Dokkum, I've actually been there a few times, so I've got some friends in that sort of area. So I'm certainly very happy this tastes good because I'll make a beeline for their tap room at some point when I'm next there. This is one of their core range. There's about 4 or 5 of them, and they're relatively inexpensive. So if you can get hold of them through their website, I would definitely go for it. Dutch IPA. And I should say this is called Easy Does It. I've not seen them in any shops or any bottle shops anywhere over here. So I'm pretty sure they
fingers crossed if everything goes to plan and trade and everything is all right, as it should be, then maybe they can start coming over later in 2021.
Yeah, that would be great, wouldn't it? Maybe we can champion them a little bit and try and get them, get some of our bottle shop friends to stock them. I like that very much, and I'm going to enjoy sipping through this while you tell us what you're going to be drinking.
So I'm at the other end of the IPA scale almost. Well, I'm certainly stronger than Dave. I've gone for Easy Way Out by Floc, Floc, and they're down, Floc Brewing Project are down in Margate. I'd never heard of them. The story on their website doesn't give away masses. I think they've been going a little while, but I wasn't quite sure exactly how long. Anyway, I've got a dipper, a double IPA, with Amarillo, Galaxy, and Simcoe. So this could be quite bitter and dank as well, but it is coming in at, I've lost the 8%.
Oh dear, this could go downhill fast, start with an 8%.
Well, I did have another brewery in mind, and I will give them their due love in a bit, but I got too excited and wanted to try them straight away, and this was the other new brewery that I'd located. So
they're a new one on me as well. I'd be fascinated to see what this is like. Okay. It looks pretty much how I would expect it to look, quite sort of hazy, and
it's definitely it's really good haze. It's that sort of vibranty yellow, more than an orange or anything. It's maybe just beyond straw, I guess, bit more. Good head. It's holding up well.
I'm fascinated to know which is the dominant hop here, because I find Galaxy can dominate quite a lot.
On the nose, it was Amarillo. Taste-wise, it's not. Taste-wise, it's Galaxy.
Yeah.
Heavy Galaxy at that, actually.
I think Galaxy is a tough one, and when you've got a mix of hops there, for me, that's nearly always the one that comes through the most.
I don't actually... I know what you mean, because I actually prefer Galaxy, I think, when it is just the single hop variants. Burnt Mills Galaxy Fog was fine. I had Deus Saturated in Galaxy in December, and I thought that was a very good beer. And I had another Galaxy one, which was Vocations, and that wasn't bad as well. So when it's just allowed to do its thing on its own, I think it's quite a good hop. I'm with you. I'm not quite sure I like it in other combinations, because I think it's a bit like Sabro. Sabro dominates, doesn't it? If you like coconut, then that's what you get generally. But if you don't, then it takes over. And Galaxy's a bit like that for me.
Yeah. This
is very heavy on it. Very heavy. It's a shame because, see, now the nose has gone. When the head was hanging around, the Amarillo was there, and now it's not. It's probably got a bit of body from the Amarillo, but it is, for me, it's almost just a Galaxy beer. It's a real big hit of bitterness when you taste it. And that really lingers, and it sort of goes almost resiny, despite it being so hazy.
You seem to be getting through it pretty well.
It's not It's not unpleasant by any means. I would just say this is probably one, if you like it bitter and you like it dank, you'll enjoy this. If you want a big fruity dipper or a big fruity sort of
juice bomb.
Yeah, juice bomb, exactly. This isn't one of those.
I'm going to say, what other beers have they got apart from this one?
On their website, there's a few different beers. They generally seem to be sticking to the pale side of things. I can't see anything other than IPAs on there. The can art's really good. They're sort of in that not quite dairy ballpark, but it's that kind of cartoony, very bright. Does stand out and look really good. But as I say, all I can see is IPAs and a couple of dippers. So they certainly seem to be embracing the lighter side of things. This, I would say, is a decent dipper. Would I have it again? Probably not, but that is personal taste. If you do like it, your IPAs and your double IPAs to be going down that sort of dang, coats your mouth almost, and it's not fruity, it's strong, and that's what you're going for, then by all means seek this out. It's it ticks all of those boxes. It's just probably not quite for me.
Daftaboutcraft.
Well, that's the Floc Brewing Project dealt with there, and I'm still making my way through my Dutch IPA Easy Does It, which is getting less bitter as I get down it. It's still got plenty of flavour though, and I'm liking it very much. Now, Dave, there was another brewery that you wanted to mention as well at this point.
Yes, so my original plan actually was to use some guys up in Chorley called Rivington Brew Co., who I'd sort of seen gaining some traction here and there, although it's not quite made its way down south as yet, and I'm hoping that will change. So I placed an order with them. They've also got some nice T-shirts, which I was quite keen on. But unfortunately, they'd all sold out just over the weekend when I placed my order. So I was sat there minding my own business and got a phone call from Kat from the brewery, who was very, very helpful indeed, explained the situation, and then swapped it round for a very nice bobble hat, which you can actually see on our Instagram page, Daftaboutcraft. And I couldn't fault the service. I was really touched by that. It just sort of is another reminder of how good this industry is with that personal touch. And the best news is the beers are absolutely banging as well. I've had 3 IPAs from my order now, and everyone's been really, 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 really good. It's in that sort of pressure drop, or not probably Daya. I'd say it's more pressure drop polys, that kind of vibe with what they're doing. But the IPAs, I can't fault them. Never known a fog like this is my favourite so far of the 3 I've had. But I've also had Space Olympics. Seek them out, have a look at their web shop, and really friendly customer service, which was really good as well. But the beers, most importantly, are top notch.
Though even though I've got far too many beers, I'm already thinking, oh, maybe Rivington should be the next one I go to.
I can't recommend them highly enough. It was really nice to find a brewery that were doing some IPAs, but they were all just different enough. Every beer was that little bit different. You know, I knew that each of the 3 I've had all had their own individual flavour profile, which is no mean feat these days. So, yeah, well played them.
Now, if you cast your mind back a few episodes, you might remember that on our Hype or Tripe feature, we had a beer from S43, and it went down very, very well with both of us. So we're absolutely delighted to welcome onto the show today Alex from S43 in County Durham to tell us how 2020 was for the brewery and what 2021 has in store.
Hey guys, this is Alex from S43 Brewery. So yeah, just going to chat a little bit about how our year's been and what next year looks like. So as you probably imagine, 2020 has been pretty strange for us. It's definitely some highs and some lows. So we started off the year primarily doing cask beer. We'd been doing craft for maybe a little over almost a year at that point, but it was still a pretty small amount of our production, just kind of based on our equipment. So the fermenters that we had at the time didn't allow us to really make much craft, so we could basically make 2 beers, about 1,000 liters of each one, and then get that stuff packaged, and then we'd brew into those same 2 tanks again. So pretty small amount, and then we were already in the midst of trying to expand the craft right before the initial lockdown hit. So we'd gotten 2 more FVs in right before the first lockdown at the beginning of the year. So we closed the brewery for about 2 weeks, and then we already had like everything in stock to go ahead and brew the next couple of beers And we already had labels, design, and everything. So we ended up putting some of our craft beer up on our web shop, and it just ended up flying off. A couple of us came back in about 2 weeks into the lockdown and started brewing again. And then, we were just selling beer like crazy through our web shop. Obviously, it was like a strange time, so we had to dump a bunch of our cask beer down the drain, which really stunk. But our craft was just, we were selling it almost as fast as we could make it. And granted, we still are a very small brewery. So during the few months of lockdown, we were doing well as far as that goes. I mean, we didn't have, it was a skeleton crew. It was mostly just me in doing the brewing. So not a sustainable way to do it, but it was getting us through. And then the summertime, once things started opening back up, most of us all came back. We started brewing some cask again. And then we also, over the summer, we were able to get 2 more FVs just to keep up with demand. So we basically increased our craft production 3 times to what it was at the start of the year. So that's been really exciting. Not without its challenges, obviously. A lot of us, we were just kind of making up as we go. Like, we never really sold beer through our web shop. We barely even had a web shop. So a lot of it was just like throwing stuff up online. And everybody kind of just pitched in and we got through it. So summertime and stuff was looking really good. And then obviously more lockdowns and stuff has happened. And so with the pub trade, pretty much not operating, that's obviously had a big impact on us. We haven't been able to make any cask beer for a couple of months now. We had to dump more cask beer as well because we had been making some again over the summer. And then when the tier system came in with more pubs closing, and then the most recent lockdown, that we still had quite a bit of cask we had to end up having to dump down the drain. But we're still. So I'm back in the brewery today. Had break from Christmas, and we're brewing the next couple of beers that will be coming out in early January. Favorite beer? That's been tough. We've done quite a few new beers this year, way more than we ever have before. At the beginning of the year, we did one called Smoothie Factory, which was a passion fruit and mango milkshake IPA, and I was really, really happy with how that came out. So I'd say that might be my favorite, although we just did a grapefruit and blood orange West Coast IPA called Revenge of the Pith. That was our last release before Christmas, and I really, really like that beer. I think it came out pretty much exactly as I intended it, which is pretty rare. So, as far as other beers and breweries go, I don't know. I can't think of necessarily a particular beer, but I think there's been a lot of breweries that have been standing out this year. I think Overtone up in Glasgow would definitely be one. I'd had 1 or 2 of their beers maybe last year, and then ended up trading some beers with him and gotten to try a bunch of their stuff. And really, really enjoy their stuff. Really nice guys as well. And then, I don't know if you can say Dea is really, but they're just always really great. I love drinking their stuff. So they just continue to put out some really amazing IPAs and hop forward beers. Plans for 2021? I don't know. I'd imagine other people are in this same position as well. But we just have no idea. We have no idea, obviously, when pubs are going to reopen. So we've got a brewing schedule planned for the next couple of months, and got a couple of collabs booked in as well. All of that, I think we're just kind of taking it week by week at this point. So we're in brewing. We'll be brewing some more in the next week or two, and then we'll start packaging towards the end of the month. So there's certainly an appetite to expand the brewery, either at our current premises or get into a new premises. Because again, we're still very, very small. We still make quite a small amount of beer. So I think we would love to be able to expand, but we'll just have to kind of wait and see what 2021 looks like as far as just the industry and the pub specifically. So while we do sell our stuff on our own web shop and then through tons and tons of local bottle shops, pubs is still a big part of what we do as far as selling, draft beer, cask as well. We'll just have to wait and see. But I think we're optimistically cautious and hopeful. So as far as upcoming beers in the next few months, so our initial for the release, we're doing a Baltic Porter, which I'm really excited about. So we had a bit of extra tank space over Christmas because we closed down a little bit. So I was able to get a Baltic Porter brewed a couple of weeks ago. So hopefully that'll have about 4 weeks, at least 4 weeks of lagering time before we can that. So really excited about that. We've got a New Zealand IPA coming out. We've got, what else? I should know all this off the top of my head because I've just been staring at the brewing schedule. We've got a collab beer with Play Brewery, which aren't too far from us. So we're doing a beer with those guys. They're coming here in a week or two. Oh yeah, we've got a dry hopped rye saison coming out as well. So I think if this year, we'll see how it goes out. But I think one thing I really want to do, just from our beer perspective, is, and we did this a little bit last year, but is focus on some other kind of non-trendy, non-popular styles. So last year we did an IPL, we did a Hefeweizen, we did a smoked Russian Imperial Stout. So some not typical kind of hazy stuff. So I think while we'll be doing plenty of hazy and juicy things this year, I think I also want to focus on just kind of diversifying a little bit what we're doing. We're probably going to be putting out about 4 new beers a month, so that gives us a lot more latitude to be able to be a bit more creative and a little bit, just diversify a little bit. So like this Baltic Porter, for instance, and you'll like the Saison, so you'll definitely see some other stuff like that coming out in 2021. So yeah, stay tuned.
Well, in the build up to Christmas, I found myself buying even more beer than usual, which is hard to believe, but true. Lots of beers I was buying ready for Christmas, and needless to say, I haven't actually drunk all of them or anywhere near all of them, but had a good time drinking some of them over Christmas, as did Dave B as well. So we thought we'd give you a little lowdown on what we were drinking over the festive season and what tickled our fancies the most. Dave, do you want to start first?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough that each year my other half curates an advent calendar. So I didn't actually have to worry about buying beer for a lot of the month, although it still didn't stop me, which is quite embarrassing, really.
It is a big problem, isn't it?
But there was 3 standout beers from the calendar, and overall it was a superb calendar. I couldn't fault it at all. But there were 3 that really stood out, and the first one was one that I never would have picked myself, and that was part of the joy of it, and it was Mind Games, which was a saison from Thornbridge, but it's in collaboration with Firestone Walker in America, and it was a gin-aged saison or gin barrel-aged saison, and it was superb. It was so good.
I can't believe what I'm hearing.
Yeah, well, I quite like saisons, and this one just really, I hadn't had one for a little while, so that probably helped, but it just really stood out. But you got the juniper, you got the sort of woodiness from the barrel, and it was dry, but it was really, really good. So the other 2 that really stood out were Greek Mechanical Owl, that came from Thin Man in America, and then finally it was a collaboration between Pomona Island and Vocation, Imperial Mocha, the very big stout at 12.4. I mean, for the ABV, it was incredible. It was just like drinking liquid chocolate. It was so smooth, but the chocolate was there and the coffee was there, but neither was sort of dominant.
It's interesting that you've ended there on a big stout, because, like I say, most of the drinks I enjoyed over Christmas were also big stouts. And the one that really stands out is an old favourite. I've talked about it before on here, probably bore you to death with it, but the Centaur Army from Neon Raptor. I bought 4 cans of it just before Christmas, and I'm getting more stingy these days in how I rate beers, but this did get the full 5 out of 5 treatment. It was really excellent. And also talking about stouts, the Caribbean chocolate cake releases from Siren that they do every year, they were also very, very good again. And I mentioned earlier that I had a 16.7% stout from Buxton. That was one of their barrel-aged ones. That's right up there for me. That was called Lasker. That quite clearly had spent plenty of time inside the barrel. It was something different, that was. And at 16.7%, that must be the strongest beer I had all year, pretty much, I'd have thought.
I would have thought so. The only thing that could possibly top that now, you're getting into barley wine, but you're almost getting into homemade barley wine. You don't quite know how strong it is, I'd say. But I think we were spoilt, really, over the year, but probably Christmas especially. There seemed no end of whatever you fancy. There was something. I mean, I know a lot of people got very excited about the barrel-aged Pomona stuff. I think a lot of people were saving that for Christmas and New Year.
Well, that's
And
exactly what I
yeah.
did and never actually got round to drinking it. I should give a shout out as well to the Imperial Stout Barrel-Aged Honeycomb Turnover from Vault City, which was excellent. What a brewery Vault City have developed into. Beer after beer that was sensational all throughout 2020. And they ended with that one and another barrel-aged stout. They were both good, but the honeycomb turnover just edged it. Not very good for you, I don't think, any of these beers, but nonetheless.
Well, no, but hopefully our next beers are going to be a bit better for us as we're going from one end of the scale to another.
Exactly, we're going from huge stouts to no alcohol at all, because we're going to have a look at some no or low alcohol beers from the Big Drop Brewing Company from Ipswich.
I'm pretty sure I have had some Big Drop in the past, but certainly not for a long time. I've heard a lot of good things, so fingers crossed.
Well, they were at Beer Central in Birmingham 2019. Yeah, in 2019, they'd got a stand there and I tried some. I was pretty impressed, really. That was the first time I'd come across them. They've been going since 2016, so 4 or 5 years now. When you think of beers with no or low alcohol, Big Drop is the name that springs to mind for most people. Yeah, I got a can and a bottle, both darks, and you've got some lighter stuff.
Yeah, I've got a pale and a lager, so I should probably start off with the lager, I think.
Yeah, go on, crack into it. So you've just cracked your first one there, Dave. Looks like a 330ml can.
Yeah, I've gone for the lager, which is called Uptown. So we've got some Hallertau Hersbrucker and Magnum hops in it. So there is hopefully going to be some sort of taste. A mere 39 calories per can as well if you're watching your waistline in January after a bit too much excess. So
it's not very often we drink beers that are 39 calories, is it?
It's not often we drink beers where they tell you how many calories they are.
There's actually a craft bar in the Midlands near me. They've got a few of them. And on their board, they actually reveal the number of calories in the drinks.
Oh, I don't think I could go for that.
It is interesting, but after a while, the novelty of that probably does wear off a bit.
You don't go to McDonald's to know how many calories are in the McDonald's.
No, this is very true.
I've had a couple of swigs of this, but I don't want to be... It reminds me a bit of cold tea.
Well, I actually quite like cold tea. I often go to bed at night with a cup of tea, and then I fall asleep before I drink it. So when I wake up the next morning, the cold tea is there ready for me. The lazy man's tea's made, that is. But I quite like it.
It's not unpleasant. When I say that, I think I'm thinking of something like an Earl Grey. So there's a bit of bergamot or something. So it does have that sort of fruity flavour, but there's not a lot else going on almost. And
I suppose there can't be though, can there?
No, you've got to be fair with this. We are judging beers which are designed to be non-alcoholic. So to suddenly go, oh, it doesn't taste like a dipper. Well, if you want a dipper, have a dipper. This is what we're trying to achieve here.
Do you remember the low alcohol beers of yesteryear, like Caliber and that sort of thing?
I was thinking that when I knew we were doing this, I was thinking about Caliber and.
Do they still exist?
There was a whole. I think Caliber is still going. There was a whole spate of them, wasn't there? That all the sort of big macros did an alcohol-free one, didn't they? There was lots of zeros and whatnot suddenly messing around, and I seem to remember. And there's Beck's Blue. That's probably the most popular one, I would guess now.
I just wondered how this compares to something like that, if you can remember ever having had one of those.
I always remember Beck's Blue and Caliber just tasted like they should taste like lager, but didn't, but just tasted really bad for it.
Yeah.
This is drinkable. Would I want to be on it for a whole night? No, but then I wouldn't want to be on any alcohol-free beer all night.
But I guess, we like to try and have a couple of alcohol-free nights a week. It doesn't always work out like that. But I suppose if you fancied having a drink, you could substitute an IPA or whatever it is for one of these. So you did have an alcohol-free night, but you've still had a beer.
There's for some reason, Suffolk has cornered this, it would seem. But Adnam's Ghost Ship, the alcohol-free version of that has been widely heralded as sort of the top alcohol-free beer. And I've had that on nights out because I have been driving. And it is very good. It tastes like Ghost Ship, just with a little bit missing. And it slows you down and you sort of feel like, oh, okay, I'm having not having a beer, but it's...
Next best thing.
I'm not just going to speed through it because it tastes of next to nothing. So that's a very good beer. This is fine. This is absolutely fine. It does what it's supposed to do, but I probably wouldn't be seeking it out if I was Des. So a passing score on that one, I think. So
okay.
What about your first one? What have you gone for?
I ordered a couple of these from our friends at Fuss Club, and they arrive very quickly. If you've never tried Fuss Club, give them a go. The first one is the Gatto Stout. Now, I think of Gatto Stout, and I'm thinking, that should be about 10%, but this isn't 10%, it's 0.5%. Although it still does have 140 calories, but that's probably still a hell of a lot less than it would have if it had alcohol in. Okay, right, so I'm pouring it out. The first thing I notice is that I'd expect this to be almost black in colour, and this is a sort of tea colour.
Yeah. So I'm guessing then it's quite thin as well, which I suppose it's got to be, hasn't it?
It's got to be.
Certain beers, you wouldn't want them to be thick.
No.
But other beers, you would. And more often than not, rule of thumb will be certain styles, if it's especially if we're down the sort of imperial stout range, a thin imperial stout isn't going to cut it. That looks really nice in the glass. Now
I've poured it all out, it looks a lot darker than it did when it was coming out. See, I get a slight sort of cherry smell off that, as though it's a Black Forest Gatto. Black Forest Gatto, yeah. Oh right, okay. Well, there certainly is cherries there. Oh, that's not bad, It's a bit like a cherry cola, but without all the sugar and without the fizz, if that makes sense. A kind of flat,
flat cherry cola, which is probably off-brand.
Yeah.
Like the Panda Pop or something.
Flat, unsweetened cherry cola. But it's nice. Yeah, I like it.
Well, my other one I've got is Pine Trail, which is their pale ale. So now I've got Magnum, Mosaic and Amarillo hops. Calories have gone up. I've gone up to 61. Be interesting to see, actually, if sadly, and it might well prove the case, the more calories, the better it tastes.
So these are hops that we're used to, that we come across all the time, aren't they? So be interesting to see what this tastes and smells like.
That smells like 1,000,001 session IPAs that I've had. So that's
good.
Yeah, exactly. That's not bad. It's got a lot more going on than the lager. I wish the hops would last that little bit longer. That's the criticism I would have. And I know it's a fine balancing act, and I know it must be difficult. But it sort of starts and it tastes, and then it just tapers off into not very much. But then it will do, won't it?
I think we've got to expect that to happen, haven't we?
Like I say, if I was in the pub and I was Des for something, I'd go to that. I'd go to that over the lager. That's far better for me. I quite like that.
Right, so it sounds like we've got 2 hits and a miss so far from the 3 big drops we've tried. So we've got a 4th one here, and we've got the Galactic Milk Stout, which sounds like it should be immense, but at 27 calories, I'm not sure it's going to be immense. What do you think? I
admire the bravery of doing milk stout as an alcohol-free style. Purely because you can have a milk stout and it tastes of very little sometimes. So if they've pulled this off, fair play.
Right, this one's in a bottle. The other 3 were all in cans. There it is in the glass. Yeah, it looks pleasant enough. It's got a bit of a head.
Nice dark colour again.
Nice dark colour. It smells like a watered down milk stout.
Okay, so we're on the right path.
Well, it tastes like one as well.
So is it sort of creamy, but then it isn't almost,
yeah.
Or it's creamy, but then it sort of fades away quicker than normal, I guess.
I prefer the other one that I had, the Gatto Stout.
The one with the most calories.
The one with all the calories, yes. Yeah, if I had to pick between the two, I would go for that one. But this is, to coin your favourite phrase, it's okay.
Daftaboutcraft.
So who's going to be big in 2021? We thought we'd give you the lowdown on the breweries we expect to make giant strides during the next 12 months. Dave, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, of course. So, having mentioned them earlier in the episode, I will double down on Rivington. I've not had, obviously, masses of their stuff, but I'm supremely impressed by what I have had. And I think, given that I've had to order that directly from down in Ipswich, from up in Chorley way, they've got room to expand and start sort of maybe spreading out in the UK. If you like your IPAs on that sort of pressure drop or Polly's mould where it's really thick goodness and, no chance of seeing through the glass, they're definitely a brewer for you to try. I just think from what I've had on that really small sample, they just struck me immediately as a brewery that know exactly what they're doing. And I think they might well take a good leap. Another brewery that we've actually featured on a previous episode is Playbrew up in Middlesbrough way or Yorkshire. I'm always a little bit confused because their website and their shipping is a bit different. But anyway, I've had a few of theirs now and I keep seeking them out because I just really like what they do. I haven't had a bad beer. I wouldn't say I've had an exceptional beer yet, but I don't think that's far away. I think they're gearing up to sort of really maybe take the next leap and just sort of knock something out of the park. I've noticed they're starting to get a little bit creative with the stouts as well and things like that. And perhaps they're one or two beers away. They might just have one that everyone's suddenly going to sort of really notice them. Obviously, S43 mentioned on to us that they're going to be doing a collab with them soon. So I think the name's getting out there, and I think come the end of 2021, Playbrew will probably be more prevalent than they are now. And the final brewery, it's the wrong time of year in some ways, but it's also so the right time of year because when you have one, it just stands out so much, is Donzoko. I love their lagers, and it just makes me think when you have something like that, why bother going to the supermarket or going anywhere to your pub and paying £4 for a pint of macro lager when you could pay the same for a can of their stuff? It's so well done. People think a lager and think there's not a lot of style there and there's not a lot of substance, but Reese at Donzoko proves that there's so much to the sort of world of lager and what you can do with it. I think he's going from strength to strength, and I really sort of think at some point he might have a bit of a breakthrough, and maybe this summer becomes the summer of Donzoko.
So there's your three, and I've got a few as well, and I'm going to stick with my own area. Anybody who listens regularly will know I'm in the Midlands, and there's a few breweries that really stand out to me. We're going to kick off with Dig Brew, who've recently started canning. Now, their drinks have always been in glass bottles up until now with a wax top, but they've started canning, and I just think that those cans are going to get out and about more and more and more. You're going to see them in more bottle shops up and down the country, and they're really good, aren't they, Dave? You've sampled them as well, so you know just how good they are.
Yeah, they were a lovely discovery in the first lockdown, actually, because of those wax bottles. Funnily enough, they stand out. They've identified who they are and what they do, and they're not afraid to sort of mess around and do quite a lot of different things as well, which is always really nice. And the tap room, if you do get the chance to go in Birmingham, is brilliant. The pizzas, can highly recommend them as well. Yeah, they are a really good brewery. And I know what you mean. To you and I think they feel quite familiar, but I don't think they're quite out there just yet, but I think they will be. Yeah,
and another one just a few miles away in Sturchley in Birmingham is Glasshouse Brewery, who just before Christmas started national delivery of their beers for the first time. And they're just excellent. They really know how to make a very, very good IPA, but also the darker stuff as well. They've done some great darker beers, and I think with that national delivery they've now got, their name is going to get out there more and more, and I can see them 12 months, 24 months moving up towards a Daya sort of territory. I really can.
They feel very like Alpha Delta did at some point almost. They're on the cusp now. I was super impressed when I had their stuff, and I remember talking about it on a previous episode. I think the sky's the limit for them.
Yeah. And our friends at Nothing Bound in Worcestershire as well, pretty great things for them. Dave there, the main guy, he's incredibly dedicated and talented at what he does, and I think they're going to have a great time in 2021 as well. We had him on the podcast last month, and his beers again are really, really good. Real sort of juice bombs. I've not had a bad one. They're all right up there. They're going to be great this year. And finally from me, Vault City, who have just moved from Dundee to Edinburgh. And I do love a Vault City. We were talking about this before the podcast. And I don't know whether it's good or bad, but I had 45 different beers from Vault City during 2020. And I think that's pretty much every one they released. I'm a massive fan, and with good reason, because they just knock their beers out of the park, whether it's a fruit sour or an over-the-top stout. I've just never had anything bad from them. They're so good. And even you, Dave, had to... you had one of their sours, didn't you, that I sent you a few months ago, and even you enjoyed it, and you hate sours.
Yeah, it's well documented I hate sours, but I don't hate Vault City. That's That's for sure as well. I mean, I did not have 45. I had 2 Vault Cities this year, and I can remember them both really clearly, though, which is a good endorsement, I think, because while I might not seek them out, I must admit every time I see what they're releasing, it does intrigue me. And I probably need to embrace it a bit more with them and I wonder if maybe some other people do as well, because it is out there, but it's not out there to the point that it's just weird. It's just different to what everyone else is doing. I love that. And as you say, they're not just sours. I mean, the sour I had was not sour. It was like cloudy apple juice, and it was delightful.
Yeah.
And I'd like to try one of their big stouts at some point.
I think you'd love them. And you know, because we monitor the craft beer scene so much, we're so familiar with a lot of these names, but people in the wider world really aren't. And I could see a lot of people being attracted by the beers that Vault City produce, and I think this year will be really good for them at their new home in Edinburgh. Fingers crossed, anyway.
Daftaboutcraft.
It's time for Hype or Tripe, the part of the podcast when we get hold of a beer that's getting rave reviews, and we put it under the microscope and see if it lives up to its top billing. And this month we've got a real corker, haven't we, Dave?
We could have chosen any number of beers, I think, with Cloudwater. I've had a few during the year, and I was pretty impressed with everything I had from them.
During the first lockdown, they did a lot of live video streams. We're selling different beers to go with the stream each week, and I bought quite a lot of those. And yeah, I mean, I'm a massive Cloudwater fan. Some of the earliest craft beers I had were Cloudwaters, and they really enticed me into the scene. And I can still remember some of those beers now. So
yeah, same.
So maybe we're a little bit biased, but I do love most things they do.
Well, you say that, but I was able to walk away from having them quite easily for a long time, because they just didn't seem to be delivering that often. But now
they seem to be back.
Now the new Cloudwater coming out is a big deal again, which it wasn't for a while.
And what we've got here is their Imperial Stout, the Coffee and Bitter Chocolate Edition number 2. Persistence is Utile. I just poured this out into the glass, and it smells and looks fantastic.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It does look the part.
Even the head is thick and dark. The
smell is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, it is bitter chocolate, but it's so much more than that. It's a really familiar flavour, which I'm hoping will come to me.
You can definitely get a lot of the coffee there as well, can't you?
The coffee starts to come through a bit on the back end, maybe with some cinnamon and some vanilla. Oh, that is a superb beer. I
had their Persistence is Utile, the Speyside version, back in the summer, and that had been aged in Speyside whiskey barrels. That was fantastic. This is even better.
It is really good. The thing I'm going to be really interested in, and it's only because I've had a couple of coffee chocolatey stouts of late, and the first couple of hits are blinding. And then for whatever reason, the flavour profile seems to get a bit imbalanced, and it goes a bit wonky, and it never comes back, and it just sort of goes a bit muddled.
I've got a feeling, well, I'm hoping this isn't going to be like that. I don't think it will be.
I think you're right, because the flavours are so distinct and so sort of strong that it's all going to hold together. But
how much was this?
I think I paid $12.50, so okay. It is not a cheap beer.
No, to any sort of layperson, they would think £12.50. What, did you get? You get 12 cans for that? They wouldn't believe it. You could pay that much for one can of beer. Do you think it's worth it?
Yes, yeah. In a word, I do. It's so decadent. You can tell there's a lot more gone into that. And yes, of course, they've got to make a profit, so it isn't £12.50, for example, to the penny that I've paid that it is worth. But it is expensive. It is strong. This is an 11% beer. It shouldn't be something you can chug down in 10 minutes and then want another one and you've spent 25 quid in 20 minutes. That's not how it works. Nor should it be. You should respect this and you should enjoy it. You could have this with a dessert if you wanted. Just
looking at the description of this beer, it says here that these are tough times and you deserve both a treat and a pick-me-up in one. And it really does fulfill that brief, doesn't it?
It's so good. I keep waiting for that coffee to just take over, because I'm quite used to, if coffee features in a stout, I'm a little bit nervous half the time, because if you like a coffee stout, great, but if it says it's going to be a coffee stout with something, often I find it isn't, because it's just not there in a good enough ratio, and the coffee will just dominate after a while, and it becomes very one note.
Yeah.
This doesn't. Somehow that coffee keeps getting reined in every time by the sort of the chocolate, but the chocolate is bitter, but it's not bitter to sort of its, bitter cooking chocolate. It's Bourneville, but maybe a little bit beyond that, but also somehow not at the same time, because it's
quite complex, isn't it? And there isn't one flavour that's dominating. It is all gelling together really well.
Everything's working together here. There's no one thing taking the lead and running away. It's so good. It's completely worth it.
My brain tells me I should savour it because it is fantastic, but I don't want to savour it. I just want to drink it because it's so good. You
want to keep coming back for more, don't you? Sometimes you get those big pastry stouts and it gets a bit too sweet and it gets a bit cloying, and you're a bit, I almost want to have a glass of water and then I'll return to it.
Yeah.
And then by the time you've done that, if you do something like that, you mess your taste buds up. But this it keeps giving. I'm blown away by how good this is, actually. I thought it might be good. I didn't think it was going to be great, and it's great.
It's deeply impressive. Like I said, I'm a very big Cloudwater fan, but that is right up there with the best I've ever had from them, I think.
Daftaboutcraft.
And that's just about it from Daftaboutcraft. From our very first episode of 2021. Hope you've enjoyed what you've been listening to. Lots of interesting beers on the show today. And we're looking forward to talking to you throughout the whole of the year about all the lovely beers we've been sampling in the months ahead. It's been a good one, Dave.
It has. It's been a nice way to get back into it. It feels like a long time since we got together to do the December episode, but of course now we're in the new year. We are going to be coming out every 3 weeks, so you will get to hear us again at the end of this month, and then every 3 weeks moving forward from that, which we're really excited about. There's obviously loads to talk about anyway, and as I said at the top of the show, once things hopefully get back to normal and we can all start moving around again and getting out there and getting to experience craft beer back at source almost, then there should be even more to talk about.
We've got some great guests lined up throughout the next few months as well. And on our very next episode, we're looking forward to talking to the guys at Lord's Brewing, Dave.
They're going to come on and we're going to do something a little bit different, hopefully. I mean, different for us because we've not had anyone on where we're going to do some tasting with them there and then and find out a bit about them and their beers at the same time. But we're looking forward to doing that with the guys at Lord's.
And at some point in the next few weeks, we've also got the ladies at A Woman's Brew coming on to talk to us and have a few beers with us. That should be a good one.
We've got various other breweries lined up to talk to via our normal means when we get them to talk to us, but we're also hoping to get a few more on this year, aren't we?
Certainly are. I've got Vault City lined up. We're hoping they're going to come on and have a chat to you at some point soon. And if anybody out there listening would like to maybe come on the podcast and talk to us, we'd be more than happy to talk to you as well. Get in touch with us through our various social media platforms. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Get in touch. We'd love to talk to you. And if you've got any ideas for the podcast as well, that's another thing. Just suggest things or suggest beers you'd like us to taste, and we will be more than happy to do it. So we will see you in a few weeks' time, towards the end of January, when we'll be bringing you loads more tastings and all that stuff we've mentioned. So from me, Dave D, a very, very happy new year to you.
And from me, Dave B, here's to a great 2021.
We shall see you very soon.
Daftaboutcraft.